Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Jack Oates to go. You either know or you don't. Before I get into anything in this, I do want to say that I'll be talking about the spoilers that were leaked. So if you are trying to avoid that, I'd suggest just coming back to this probably on Sunday or on Friday when the unofficial translations drop. But yeah, I'll be talking about the spoilers. I will not be showing spoiler portions of the manga. But I will be talking about what we've seen. So, like I said, this is your time to get off. Let me give you like 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Let's talk about this shit. All right. So look, there's a lot of like tweets going around talking about like, oh look, like two devils were released. These are obviously the Thaumael, the twin gods. And they show a picture, which I probably should have pulled up, where it has the Thaumael at the top, and then it shows Lilith at the bottom. Now, this is something that I tried my best in my previous videos. Almost every single video, I showed this exact photo that you see now. But to relay the fact that some of these things are reoriented in a way to give the viewer a better experience while looking at it, because if you're looking at something where the thumbnail is at the top, it's just showing you what the tree of Sephiroth would look like side by side. Now this is how it should look. It's a reflection, remember, it's the shadow of Qliphoth. So we have two, if we're just looking at the Sephiroth, we have two bubbles, and then we start getting into like some diamond and triangle formations, and at the very top you just have three, which is I forgot what I was going to say there, but anyway, but yeah, you'd have Keter, who's licked, Bino, who I believe is Raya, and I forgot who Chokma is. I think it's Ron. But then in the reflection, so if you hold this tree up to a mirror, which this line represents, you're going to have the same thing. You're going to have two bubbles before you start getting into these triangle and diamond shapes. And then you have Thaumael at the very bottom, which is the highest order of the underworld. Okay, so if we are starting to open seals, we're starting at the beginning, which is at Nemoth, where the demon Nama is, and then you have Lilith in the second one. Now, regarding the two demons that you see, I believe that, I think one of two things happened. That there's either two demons in Nama, and that's totally fine, or two clips were opened. So that would be Nama and Lilith. Now, here's the thing we have to consider, is who exactly is Magicula, and then who exactly are these two devils, right? So I think it is possible that these two devils may not even be the ones who rule in either one or both of those clips. They could very well be lesser devils. Maybe not like Nox form of lesser devils, but definitely strong, but not the ones who rule over that clip. I could be wrong on that one, but that's just one possibility. Another one is that these two are Tabata's way of saying like, hey, this is how I'm interpreting androgynous being, because we do see that their opposite sides have these very similar traits, like a giant arm, the horn, and they both have different wings, though. So this could probably foreshadow a possible fusion, right? Where they will come together and create the ultimate being. And when you have a male and a female come together, then you have this androgynous being. So this could still make sense. And like I said in my other videos, especially the one I talk about Magicula, I tell you guys that in these first two clips, the devils that reside in there are Liliths and Lilith. Now, I know Lilith is the name of a specific demon, but this is also a class of demons, as Lilith are, namely succubus. And Liliths, who are the male version of Liliths, are the incubi. So that's something we have to keep in mind, and it's like I said in a lot of other videos, that a lot of this mythology and lore is really confusing to interpret, and you have to understand, especially when we might be dealing with androgynous beings, that Tabata is mostly appealing to a younger crowd. So it's got to be digestible. You know, you don't. I mean, you guys see every day, especially if you're on Twitter, that especially within the anime community, like one thing happens and the whole community is just up in flames and at arms. So to keep interest while trying to build sales, you're gonna have to make sure that your audience is captured, and there's little bad news or energy coming from your audience, right? You want some controversy because you want it to be talked about, but you also want people to pick up what you're putting down, as far as content goes. So I do believe this is just Tabata's way of interpreting, like, hey, this is going to turn into this androgynous being. You have a male and a female who clearly look like twins and are two halves of what could be a whole. Now, something that is interesting about Lilith and Nama is that they're said to be related. Now, Nama is said to be a girl in most lore, and is said to be the sister of Lilith. Now, whether this other devil is actually a girl and just might be flat-chested, I don't know. But I'll take that it's probably male. It brings up an interesting dynamic, right? Because I do bring up in a few other videos that these devils were clearly sealed away. This is why they're lifting seals to release them. So whoever sealed them away, if these two were from the first two clips, then they are siblings that were separated for a very, very long time. And this could create a very interesting dynamic of when and if we find out who sealed these beings away, how they could be so cruel to separate, siblings and whatnot. I'm sort of leaning on, the devils having a not really like a soft backstory where it's like, oh, we were wronged. I do believe they were probably wrong to an extent, but they are still just bad in nature for the most part. But I do expect stories like that where it's like, oh, these siblings were super close, just like you see like Gauche and Marie, and imagine like someone sealing them away and separating them for most of all eternity, right? It would be a pretty sad and tragic story. So, and the painting that Liabe shows us just shows that the underworld is just full of just pain and suffering, really. But this will also bring me to another point here. So, in my Magicula video, I talk about how Magicula could possibly be the reason of Asta's coming into being. And Lucida could very well be just our mother Magdalene. So in that video, I suggest you go back and look at it. It's Magicula, the first triad. I believe I say the mother, the father, or both in the title. So go look at that, because there's a ton of information in there that could really probably help us out with this the next few chapters here. But the section of clip art that Lilith and Nama are in, they are what's unnatural about the world. They're everything that is wrong, everything weird about the world is due to them, which is why they are the closest to the world of the living. Now, when you look at this, right here, you have Malkuth on the Sephiroth and Namoth overlapping, And this line is the world of the living. Okay. So this gives room for a being that's in that section. They have less seals to break, as I do break down in that video as well. They have less seals to go through. Because remember, Noct says there are 7 seals. So that means if you're at the bottom, you're breaking through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seals. If you are here, you're breaking through 1, 2, 3, 4 seals to get to the world of the living. So it's beneficial for the one at the very top to be there, because they would have the most influence on the world of the living. And being that these two are both in the first section, it makes sense why 2 of them came out, because 1 seal was lifted, which means 2 clips were probably released in that one. However, the only thing that's weird about this is the time frame, because it seemed like we had a lot more time, or maybe not a lot more, but just a bit more time before the seal was lifted. But it seems that something has happened to where that the seal was lifted early. Something Morris did probably sped it up. Who knows? We'll wait for those translations to drop. But it makes sense that 2 devils came out, and it's not the twin gods. And if you even look at... sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent, but I'll go back to the Asta thing. If you look at even Noct's layout of the underworld, you have the 2 in the very beginning, just like you have the 2 here. Okay, this is not the Thameo. And like, I don't know, like, share this out, put people on game. I'm like 99.999999997% sure that these are not the Thameo. And you're going to see why I think that in the next video, where I talk about Liebe and his origins in completion. But back to Asta. So it's my belief that that Magicula, or one of these beings in the first 2 clip-offs, had some sort of relation with Lucida, and thus created Asta, who is void of mana, with being a defective being. And now Asta is unnatural to the world, and even down to his very physical shape is not looked at highly by most people, and somehow still has a harem of women. But they do say this in the series, that having a muscular body is gross. That's how people view that sort of body. It's more normal to be a slender type with lean muscle, if anything. So Asta is just really an abomination. It really sucks to paint him in that light, but he's just an abomination on the world. He's got no mana. He's just ugly, muscular thing. And now has this very mysterious form of energy. I won't call it magic for the sake of, it being anti-magic. But, has this weird form of energy that he uses to fight with this mysterious Grimoire. Everything about him is just off. So this gives way to the very description of the first 2 clips, where they are the curses of God, I believe is what they're called, the poison of God. And something that could happen here is, like I said, my belief, Magicula is the one who resides in the first 2 clip-offs. If these 2 beings form one being, I believe that being might be Magicula. I think it's possible that that the unified being is Magicula, and this split being is just what we see now. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of give out that information. Like I said, go back to that Magicula video. There's so much information, and I'm pretty sure this has a lot to do with who Asta is and how he came into be. Before I go, one of the other theories I was coming across was Lilith is said to be... now, this is weird because there's several different pieces of lore. Lilith is said to be siblings with not only Nama, but with Astaroth. And for those of you that have been on the channel where I've talked about Astaroth a few times, Astaroth is also androgynous. I think Astaroth is the last of the androgynous beings within the Qliphoth. And Astaroth, as we see here, is in a pretty high place. Not the highest, but pretty high. So this just makes things a little more interesting. But another piece of lore is that Lilith and Astaroth are like kind of like a thing, which is weird, to say the least. But in most other lore, Lilith and one of the devils in the Samael, they call him Adremelech here, but I do believe they just call him Samael because he's the fallen angel Samael. Lilith and Samael end up having relations, and they create these beings that are, I would say, akin to what we see on that painting in Nox's Shadow Realm, where Asta's training, where they're just like kind of hybrids, and they even mention like a screech owl and a gosh, I forgot what they call it, but it's pretty much a Baphomet, which is also what we see on that painting. But yeah, it's weird because all of this seems to link to Astaroth coming into play here. And I'm gonna sketch this out more in the next video where I talk about Leah Bay, because I do think Astaroth has some agenda if we are gonna bring him into the story, which we should be. And I think it makes for more questions, and would make the overseas arc that's coming after this make a little more sense as to why they're doing it. But I did just want to drop this video to tell you guys that don't get thrown off that these guys are, twins, and I know that the Damael are regarded as the twin gods or contesting gods, but this is not the case. This is just the first two clips, and like I said, these are separated by the lines. So if one seal's lifted for the first day, then 2 devils are coming out. That's how it's laid out. So on the last day, 3 devils will come out. Kind of get it? So, like I said, share this if you have people that don't really understand what's going on. Don't get thrown off again. But yeah, look out for the next video for Leah Bay and my thoughts on his origins, my completed theory. It's been so spread out over time, so I want to make a just consolidated video on exactly what I think about Leah Bay and his origins and his and part of his future. So tune in. I'm just going to record it right after this, so it should come out bam, back to back. But yeah, this has been OATz the GOAT. Follow me on Twitter. Let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know your thoughts about what's happening right now. It's getting so interesting, you guys. Tabata is dropping bombs. These next, oh my gosh, the next 10, 15 chapters are going to be absolute mayhem. And it's going down. It's going down. So, you guys, if you're stoked about it, let me know what you're stoked about specifically. Other than that, this has been OATz the GOAT. You either know or you don't.